Hey guys, this is the dividing decimals video. As always, make sure your notes look just like my slides. All right, let's get started. Okay, before we start taking notes, we're gonna identify parts of a division problem. So we have three parts of a division problem. We have a divisor, a dividend, and a quotient. Quotient is your answer. The divisor is the number that you're dividing by, and the dividend is the number that you're dividing. So in this problem, we have 25 divided by 4/100ths. One way I like to remember, let's go back a quick slide. Okay, one way I like to remember the parts of a division problem, and this is silly, but it works for me, is that the divisor is the driver, and it's driving into the dividend. Or like, I think of the dividend as being the end for some reason. I think it's because it's got that part in it. Okay? So if that helps you, great. If that's silly, don't use it. Okay, when we look at this problem, we're asking the question, how many 4/100ths are there in 25? Just think for a second how many 4/100ths there would be in 1. There'd be a whole lot, right? I mean, if you can picture in your mind, 4/100ths are a lot smaller than 1, or a lot less, I'm sorry, and there would be a lot in one whole. So there are really a lot in the number 25. That's why we end up with a quotient that's larger than the dividend. So this happens when we're dividing a whole number by a decimal that's less than 1. Okay. To divide numbers with decimals, follow these 4 steps. Step number 1, make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. Step number 2, move the decimal in the dividend the same number of places to the right. Step number 3, move the decimal up to the quotient, that's the answer. And step number 4, divide as whole numbers. Go ahead and pause the video and make sure that you have all 4 of these steps copied down in your notes. All right, let's do some examples so we can see how this plays out. All right, we have 2 82/100ths divided by 4/1000ths. All right, let's set that up. So we have 2 82/100ths divided by 4/1000ths. Our first step is to make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal to the right. So in this problem, we need to move it 1, 2, 3 places. So we're going to do that same to the dividend. 1, 2, looks like we need a 0 right there. We need to add 1. 3. Okay, and now our problem is 2,820 divided by 4. Now we can just do the division on this. We can't put 4 into 2, but we can go over to the 28 here and divide 28 by 4. So 28 divided by 4 is 7. 7 times 4 is 28. Subtract, bring down the 2. 4 goes into 2 0 times. 0 times 4 is 0. Subtract, bring down the 0. And when I say bring down, this is what I'm doing. 4 goes into 20 5 times. So our answer is 705. All right, let's look at another example. This one's a little bit trickier. Now we've got 5 562/1000ths divided by 61 8/10ths. Okay, remember the divided by goes over here on the left. That's the divisor. So we've got 5 562/1000ths divided by 61 8/10ths. Well, our first step is to make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal place over. Then remember that we do the same thing in the dividend. So now our decimal place is right there. Whoops. Okay. Our step number 3 is to move the decimal up to the quotient. So I'm going to copy this new problem down because now we moved the decimal place in both the divisor and the dividend. So now we have 55 62/100ths divided by 618. Essentially what we just did was multiply both by 10, but that's not essential to remember right now. So our step number 3 is to move the decimal place up to the quotient. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we're just going to divide. Okay, so 618 goes into 5 0 times, right? We're not going to do all the zeros and do all that adding. So let's just go to the next digit. 618 goes into 55 0 times. 618 doesn't even go into 556, so we're going to write a 0 there. But we probably can estimate 5,562 divided by 618 and say that it would go in there 9 times. We're just ignoring the decimal for a second. So 9, let's go ahead and finish our long division algorithm. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 7 is 16. 9 times 6 is 54, plus 1 is 55. And if you finish that off, we get 0. So our answer is 9/100. Okay, you have some Toyos here. Go ahead and pause the video, and why don't you try a couple Toyos and then come back and check your answers and then try a couple more. All right, let's go ahead and go over letter A. So we have 12 5/10 divided by 2 5/10. Okay, remember our first step is to make the divisor a whole number by moving the decimal place over. And then our second step is to do the same thing in the dividend. So now we have 125 divided by 25. Let's bring the decimal place up. That's our third step. And then we divide as whole numbers. So 125 divided by 5 is, we're going to estimate about 5. We probably don't need to estimate. You guys are Liberty kids that have been doing your math facts since kindergarten, so I bet you knew that automatically. But let's just finish our algorithm and make sure that we're correct. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. So our answer is 5. All right, let's do this next one. We have 5 4/100 divided by 9/100. So step number 1, move that decimal place over until the divisor is a whole number, and then we do the same thing in the dividend. Okay, so now we have, let's see if I can erase this. So now we have 50 4/10 divided by 9. So let's go ahead and do our third step, which is to put the decimal up there in the quotient. Okay, and then we're going to divide. Let's see if I can get my decimal in there. All right, 9 doesn't go into 5, so let's go over here to the tens place. 50 divided by 9 is going to be a little bit more than 5, right? Because 45 divided by 9 is 5. Okay, so let's multiply 5 times 9 is 45. And 50 minus 45 is 5. Now we're going to bring down the 4. And 54 divided by 9 is 6. 6 times 9 is 54. If I subtract, I get 0, so I know I'm done. And we already have the decimal place in there because we did that in step 3. So my answer is 5 6/10. All right, let's do letter C. Okay, letter C, 14 4/10 divided by 32/100. This time we're going to move the decimal place over 2 places in the divisor, which means we need to add a 0 in the dividend so that we can move the decimal place over 2 places. Let's go ahead and just rewrite this because that's not very clean. All right, so here's what it looks like now. Our third step is to bring that decimal place up. So let's see, 32 goes into 14, not at all. So let's go to the next place. So 32 goes into 144 about 4 times. Let's multiply that out. 4 times 2 is 8. And 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, then I subtract. And I'm going to bring down that 0. 160 divided by 32, let's say about 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 1 is 16. Oh, look at that. That's perfect. Okay, and now we're done. So we don't have anything to the right of the decimal place, so our answer is just 45. All right, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers for these next few, and then I'll demonstrate letter F here. All right, on letter F we have 499 and 8/10 divided by 714 thousandths. Whew! All right, well, we're going to need to move this decimal place over 3 places in the divisor. So we're going to need to do the same in the dividend. So let's add some zeros there. Okay, then that third step is to put the decimal place up in the quotient. So let's actually rewrite this one as well because it's getting messy. So we have 499,800 divided by 714. Good times. All right, get ready for some long division. Let's see. We can't put 714 into 4. We can't put it into 49. We can't even put it into 499. But we can divide 4,998 divided by 714. So let's do that. And I'm going to guess that it goes in there about 7 times. All right, so let's go ahead and do our long division. 7 times 4 is 28. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9. 7 times 7 is 49. Oh, look at that. That's so perfect. Okay, let's bring down a 0. 714 goes into 0 times. 0 times 714 is 0. Let's bring down another 0. 714 goes into 0 again, 0 times. 0 times 714 is 0. And we're done. Our answer is 700. All right, you guys, make sure you go back over this if you need more help with division, or ask me tomorrow.